Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, May 20th. I'm Gary Stevens. Third Friday of every month at this time, we get caught up with telecommunications and other related topics with the telephone man. He is the Regional Vice President for External and Legislative Affairs with AT&T of Michigan. Greg Clark joins us on the other side of our Zoom connection this morning. Greg, good morning and welcome back, sir.
Good morning, Gary. Glad to be back. Happy Friday to you.
Yeah, happy Friday to you. And if you have a question about your phone service, yeah, I know that maybe you don't have AT&T, but Greg is pretty knowledgeable about the industry. He'll be able to help you out. 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Also about telecommunications issues is something that Greg will be happy to talk to you about. And since we last chatted, I want to get your thoughts about something that came out earlier this month, Greg. The nation's leading internet providers are slashing the cost of broadband service for low-income Americans. 20 internet providers covering more than 80% of the population, including AT&T, have agreed to reduce service costs by up to $30 a month and $75 a month on tribal lands, as it's part of an agreement with the Biden administration announced earlier this month, and it's part of the administration's push to make fast, affordable internet service available across urban, suburban, and rural areas, as well as on tribal lands. Speaking from your perspective with AT&T, it's good for consumers, but I think the industry is saying, hey, it's going to be good for us too.
It is, Gary, and thanks again for having me today. Love talking to you and you're listening to your listeners and talking through these things. And you know, we are one of the richest nations on the planet, and yet millions of Americans still can't connect to high-speed internet, you know, due to issues either affordability, availability, or adoption. And, you know, that must change. And, you know, you highlighted what happened in Washington this week. We're committed to driving broadband adoption. We're committing $2 billion to helping those in need get connected. We have a product called Access from AT&T. $30 a month. When you pair that with the ACP benefit from the administration, essentially you get broadband service at your home for free. And we're trying to get the word out about that.
616-395-1450. Let's get to the phones. Good morning. You're on the line with the telephone man, Greg Clark.
Yes, good morning, Greg. I have a question for you. We've been an AT&T customer for over 25 years. And every year we have to call and talk to the retention defenders to negotiate a price for the internet, the cable, and the landline. It's becoming where it's going up more and more every year. They say they're going to give us a break, then they don't give us a break, and it ends up going more and more all the time. What are you going to do to try to keep the customers that you have currently to keep us satisfied as well? And we've been paying on time.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Don't have the access or the affordability and whatnot, but the ones who have paid for many years for this service and continue to be loyal customers, what are you going to do for the customers who are continuing to stay with AT&T and not go to other subsidies?
Yeah, well, you know, thank you for that question. You know, we obviously do not want you churning from us to another provider. We value your service. If there's anything we can do to either get you on a contract so you've got predictable pricing and availability and things like that. Don't know what town you're located in, but you can either reach me through the show afterwards or pop into one of our stores over in Holland or Grand Haven, and we'd be more than happy to take a more deeper look at your situation and see what we can do. You bring up a really good issue. Customers want predictability, they want quality, and they want to know that, you know, you don't want to spend 30 minutes on the phone, you know, every 6 months or a year talking through your billing situation. And we don't want that either. So the more that we can do to get that behind us as quickly as possible, better for you, better for us, and better for your experience with the telecommunications company.
All right, appreciate the call. 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. But it brings up a point, Greg, and I've discussed it with Ruth before, and I'm going to discuss it again with you, is the fact that there are some consumer advocates who would say the way that, in not just telecommunications, but in other competitive industries, where they are trying to get new customers with incentives that are good for maybe the first year or the first 2 years, and then revert to normal pricing after that. Some say, yeah, jump companies all the time, switch from one to another to keep the low prices, because it's the long-term customers that are really paying the long-term freight. And I mentioned this to Ruth, and I'll mention it to you as well. You want loyalty, but it does come at a little bit of a price if you want to, have that loyalty, and maybe trying to have customers stay for the long term might not be a bad marketing idea.
I completely agree with some customers like price shopping. If you buy on price, then you're going to be incented to do that on a regular basis. Even on our end, like for example, we've got a special bundle launching this weekend for new customers ordering AT&T fiber. We call it the recharge, and if you sign up for our fiber service, you get a free Google Nest Hub Gen 2 device, free smart light bulb, free smart plugs for your house. Nice incentives like that. We're trying to move more towards an incentive-laden package in that area and try to be more predictable on price.
It is, to some people, National Police Week. For others, National EMS Week, honoring those on the front lines, our first providers, and certainly the telecommunications industry very much in the vanguard of saluting those who use their services to be able to help those in need.
Yes, sir. I live close to a fire station, and I hear the sirens pulling out all hours of the day or night. And I don't think anything of it because it's so frequent. And these are very talented public servants who dedicate their careers to keeping us out of harm's way. Their vehicles have some incredible technology, Gary, inside them. And so any listeners who are out there who are in one of those fields, EMS field, the public safety first responder field, or who have loved ones who are in those fields like you, Gary, we salute you.
Now, part of the reason why I'm bringing this up, and we're part of it in the sense that as radio and television, we are considered essential. Especially during the outbreak, our industry was considered those that were essential workers need to be where we are, as we are right now, and we are part of this FirstNet situation as well. In fact, we used it very well during the Tulip Time Festival, and it's away from the general public, but yet to provide information, we got to have some tools, and that's one of them.
We got to have some tools, and FirstNet is there. Over 3 million connections nationwide. It enjoys some features that the regular public switch wireless network does not, such as priority and preemption. You can be in a crowd with a FirstNet device as a first responder, and you will always know that your voice, your data, your text messages, your streaming on your devices, your communication will always go through on your phone. Your communications take priority on the FirstNet device through unique SIM cards that allow that priority and preemption to keep the public safe in events like Tulip Time. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's very, very, very important. Tell us about Raj the dog.
Yeah, so Raj the dog, we have 30. In fact, there are actually 30 Raj the dogs going around the country right now. We're looking to add more. First, May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and folks in the first responder industry go through enormous challenges in making sure they are focused and ready to respond. Therapy animals are a great piece of making sure that our first responders are always ready to be engaged and perform a really unique role there. So I'm a pet lover. These are specially trained animals that do wondrous things with doctors, firemen, EMS workers, police officers, and the like, including folks who are in the first responder business and the media like yourself, Gary.
Yeah, and we talk about therapy animals. Usually when the hospital situation, the youth hospital situation, but also sometimes they're needed when maybe we have a fire and a family's displaced, and the kids are wondering what's going on. Sometimes these therapy dogs are very much a big help in that regard. Now,
it really is, and it just helps de-escalate things.
Now let's move, obviously today being the 20th, this week, or shall we say back on the 17th, which was on Tuesday, it was World Telecommunications Day. Tell us a little bit about it and how AT&T celebrated it.
I will. So to your listeners, World Telecom Day goes back to the 1800s. It was formalized as a celebratory event back in the 60s. And it focuses on how just awareness for advancing a safer, more equitable digital world. What can the telecom industry do to make sure that our population on the planet can enable a more prosperous future for everybody? Just some fun facts, Gary. Back in the early days of the telephone industry, wires were chosen, and I encourage your listeners to challenge me on this. Wires were chosen based on how tasty mice found the wires, and the less tasty the wire, the greater the chance that the wire will be used to communicate service, as the possible damages from being eaten by mice and squirrels seem lower. So there's a lot of unique facts like that we look back on and reminisce.
Yeah, they didn't like copper. Okay, fine. Bad copper is bad. Well, maybe some other metals were a little bit better. For those of us who are a little bit more seasoned,
yes, sir.
Let's just say we know of a time when there was no such thing as a text message.
Not at all.
In fact, it's only, that's only 30 years.
That's the first text message that came through
30 years ago.
30 years ago, Nokia had the first devices, and they actually used Morse code to signal that you were getting a text message. And so the beeping sounds that folks heard on the original devices announcing they had a text message was actually Morse code for "you have a text message." And the very first text message that was sent simply said, "Merry Christmas."
Yeah, that's not one of those, "Watson, come here, I need you." That's the classic one for the telephone. And of course, some of us do remember the now late lamented Nextel push to talk feature, which we thought at the turn of this millennium was sort of a nifty thing. By 2010, it was passé.
It was passé. And, people, a lot of times nowadays, folks mostly use their phone, ironically, for checking the time. The telephone, one might argue it's the most profitable invention, most useful and popular technical invention in the history of the country. I mean, you could line up a number of things and compare against it. The wheel, the nail, lots of unique things that are out there that really contributed to our society. But the telephone and the use of the telephone and the internet, which is now the phone, which we've become the internet, it's just been an amazing technological revolution. It took almost a whole year to connect. Another fun fact, Gary, almost a whole year to build the first phone line between New York and San Francisco. 15,000 miles of copper wire and a grand small number of 140,000 telephone poles were erected to make that call possible.
Let's get to a call before we get to a break. Good morning. You're on the line with the telephone man, Greg Clark.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I got a question for him.
I got it.
When you call up, you need service and stuff. You're always talking to somebody from India or something. Why can't they use American-speaking people for service?
Well, I will take that feedback back, but we pride ourselves on making sure that we handle our customers. Your feedback is important to us. We want to make sure that you have the best experience possible. And let me run with that. I'm not totally familiar with your particular situation. We employ a wide variety of diverse talent in the industry, and all of whom are highly trained to handle a wide variety of unique situations. And so I appreciate the feedback, sir.
All right, we need to take a break. Thank you very much for the call. Greg, efforts to try to improve broadband availability have been ongoing in this particular region. We had Allegan County commissioners talking about that a week ago. And of course, efforts are being done here in Holland as well. And AT&T tried to work with private-public partnerships to try to increase broadband availability. Tell us about the latest on those efforts.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Gary. We are aggressively looking for communities that want to partner with our industry to build, so that we can build, operate, and refresh network technology. So often, there's a lot of thought in terms of who's best equipped to operate networks. We obviously feel that providers have been in the broadband industry for decades. We specialize in building quality, reliable, and secure networks. We are a going concern. We have the capability not just to invest the initial capital to build a network, but we can reinvest and recurringly reinvest in networks. The challenge is actually maintaining a network once you build it. And so we are more than equipped at doing that. We're in the middle of a major nationwide build out, leading the nation's largest fiber build across the country, looking to add 15 million fiber connections in the next 3 years. We offer great rates, 1, 2, and 5 gig speeds. And we invest in community programs along with that to encourage on the adoption side. So we feel that private industry is best equipped to take the leading role in working with governments to make that happen. And we encourage that dialogue.
Working with governments, of course, part of your responsibilities is the regional vice president for external and legislative affairs, is keeping a pulse on what's going on in the legislature in Lansing. What are we seeing in terms of maybe what state lawmakers are trying to do, not only on the legislative side, but also on the executive branch side, to try to improve broadband, because that is something that both Democrats and Republicans say is a major plank in their platforms.
That's true. And they reached an agreement in the last couple of months to open what they call the state's MiHi office, the Michigan Office of High-Speed Internet. That office will be stood up this summer. It will be ready to accept applications for funding requests in the public-private partnership vein. We intend to fully participate in that to help drive investment in networks, in areas of the network that may not have underserved or unserved areas. We intend to get to those as quickly as we can with the best technology that's out there.
One final thing, and again, correct me in the terminology, because I probably will say something that is incorrect. But a few years ago, in fact, probably as recently, maybe 2 years ago, there was a big push to try to get the small cell or the short cell antennas up in that. Are you seeing more and more municipalities saying, hey, we got that capability for the small cell, or you still have to try to work with some municipalities to get these maybe shorter antennas to be able to accommodate, especially 5G?
Yeah, so the small cell build across the country, across the state of Michigan as well, is going good. We have deployed a number of them in a number of towns across the state, and that technology is great. There's a role for both Wi-Fi and small cell and macro towers in ensuring that the public has the best communication network possible. And we will continue to deploy small cells where the engineering makes sense to do so.
I just have not heard a lot about it recently, and that's why I sort of wanted to bring it up to you. It's like, is it still going on?
Yes.
Certainly a talking point for maybe some future conversations. If you
Love to do that.
If you want to get a hold of Greg Clark, he is more than happy to say hello to you. His mobile number, 248-217-1360. 248-217-1360. 1360. He'll be able to help you out and maybe cut through some of the red tape at AT&T. Greg, as always, thank you very much for your time and look forward to chatting with you again next month.
Happy Friday. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Greg Clark, the telephone man on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.